What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 121 of Super Deformed Gamescast. SDGC is here. As always, I am one of your hosts, John, aka at Mr. Megadub on Twitter. And tonight we've got a great group of guys to talk about all the nerdy video game stuff that happened this week. Up in the corner, we got Justin. What's up, buddy? You gotta unmute. Everybody unmute.
I'm here.
There, yeah, Brandon's there.
I am here.
There, okay. Did we just lose Justin?
Oh, Justin's frozen now.
Oh, we just lost it. But he's frozen in the best possible way, though.
That's great.
That's an O face. Right
that's he looks like Solid Snake in Metal Gear Solid 2 when he's doing and you know when you look at the picture of the girl in the locker and then you go to the codec and he's like, oh, there he goes, we lost him. He's gone. He'll be back. Justin's
off to a great start.
I know, right?
Perfect.
Made it like 30 seconds.
I know. Yeah. Hey, is that some kind of a record for this podcast? No.
Maybe 20. Maybe 20.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Well, Maddie's back on the fucking podcast after what seems like forever, man. Dude, I'm so glad you're back, man. Yeah, dude, it's been a while since you've been here, man.
Yeah. I think last time I was on, Matt was on too, though. So we got the dual Matts.
I know. Yeah, I like that. This is gonna make it extra confusing. I think
Jesus beard now.
I think Justin's he's morphing back in here. There he is.
Hey.
All right. Yeah. There we go.
No, that was fantastic, dude. Your face froze in the most perfect manner. Like, it was great.
It was an O face.
It was a total O face, man. It was great.
You
It was
were right
fantastic.
in the middle of it.
You really were. And Brandon is here. Brandon, what's up, my man?
What's up, dude?
And as you can see, I'll introduce Justin again. Justin is here as well.
Hello.
Justin has been able to make more and more podcasts. That makes me really happy, man.
And I may be getting a schedule change with work, so next week I won't be able to be on, but after that I may be able to be on quite a bit more regularly as well. So I'm really hoping that comes through.
Sacrificing your job to be on SDGC is the ultimate pledge of loyalty to this podcast, in my opinion.
I mean, I also make more money if I get this switch too. So
well, there
it's not that much of a sacrifice.
It works out for me and it works out for you. And as always, Matt Piscatella with NPD Group is here. Matt is here every single month to talk about the NPD drops. And Matt, how long have you been coming on this podcast and doing this now?
Over a year now. Sometimes I get to come on more than once a month when our data goes kooky and we have 2 releases in like 3 weeks.
You do.
Oh.
And I mean, honest to God, Matt, you want to just join the podcast at this point?
Nobody's complaining.
You want
to
no,
not.
Can't possibly be associated with
it's always fun to hang out, for
Final
sure.
Fantasy VI so low on a top 100 list.
It's the disrespect for Witcher 3's combat that really gives me pause.
You and I are never ever going to see eye to eye on that. I'm afraid. But anyway, we'll go ahead and so as everybody knows, whenever Matt is on, we talk about the NPDs, which is what we're going to do. But first, real quick announcement about a new podcast format that we're rolling out. Jeff, so we had Pause for Popcorn.
We're all going to be naked.
We're all going to be nude. Every single one, even Matt Piscatella here is going to.
Yeah, let's do it.
We're all going to take our shirts off.
I still won't be using a camera, but I will still be naked.
Brandon's going to be naked in spirit with us. Brandon's going to be fully clothed. He's going to say, "I'm totally naked, guys. Do it. I'm totally naked right now."
You can hear it in somebody's voice.
You can.
The freedom.
You can hear the freedom. You can. Sometimes I'll be talking to a friend on the phone, and I'm like,
"The liberation."
You're naked right now, aren't you? I can tell. I can tell by the loftiness in your tone.
I'm fully clothed.
But no. So Jeff, who does Pause for Popcorn, he's been just so busy with life, he hasn't been able to do it recently, and we want to get some more content on the channel. So what we're going to do for guys like JT and Jeff, who haven't been able to make it in a while because of their busy schedules during the week, every weekend we are going to start doing a recap video of things that happened this past week. For example, Gamescom is going to be our topic on Saturday. It's going to be pre-recorded. We're not going to go live with it, but we're going to pre-record it. We're going to talk about things that have happened this past week, like Gamescom, for example, and then other things that happen as weeks progress. And we will post them on the YouTube channel that same day. So that way, some of the guys that aren't able to get slots in the podcast as often as they might like can still help get out there and hang out and talk about games just the way we all like to do. So the first one of those will be happening on Saturday. And Justin, you're going to be there, right?
Yes, depending on the time.
Yeah, we'll
figure it out. But there's a good chance I will be there.
We'll figure it out, and by Saturday, we'll have a name for it. It'll be something clever and catchy, I'm sure, but we'll come up with something. But without any further ado, why don't we go ahead and let Matt Piscatella jump into the NPDs as he's wont to do. So, Matt, please take it away, man. The floor is yours.
Well, so obviously a huge month with Muv Love Alternative taking the top spot on the PlayStation Vita in the month of July. Now, I didn't know what Muv Love Alternative was this morning, but it is the best-selling game on the PlayStation Vita. And I've learned things today about the PlayStation Vita. I already knew some things about the PlayStation Vita, but now I know more.
People used to try to deny it, but eventually it just...
So when you get a chance, Muv Love Alternative, go take a look. It looks compelling.
Yeah, I'll definitely take a look at that.
Compelling.
Yeah,
one word for it.
But of course, yeah, a big month for Nintendo. In July, the Switch was the top hardware selling platform. More Nintendo hardware has sold in the month of July than any July since 2009.
Wow. That's fucking bonkers, man. That's insane.
Well, it helps. The classic editions certainly help with that number. But that is a big number of Nintendo hardware going into households in the U.S. this month for sure. And on top of that, we have Octopath Traveler, which I know you want to dig into a little bit at number one.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so happy.
And the other big takeaway from the month is Nintendo, as a software publisher, is the #1 software publisher of both the month and the year. And the real kick there is we don't currently track digital on Nintendo. So just physical Nintendo sales at retail are bigger than any other publisher's combined physical and digital. So
fucking insane.
however you look at it, Nintendo is killing it,
murdering it. God, what a fucking turnaround from the Wii U era! Like, I can't get over the way Nintendo's fortunes have just completely reversed, man. Like that is insane.
I mean, I was surprised they blew it so hard after the Wii. So it's just they're just coming around. Yeah,
it's been just remarkable when you consider, particularly that we don't track digital for Nintendo, and they're doing things that are surprising. I think a lot of people can't really, well, either they can't absorb it or they don't believe it. But just how well they're doing with the installed base of Switch, those folks are buying a hell of a lot of software. They're buying a lot of software, both physically and digitally from all accounts. So you combine that with a PlayStation 4 that continues to do exceptionally well on its own, and then Xbox One, which is, in terms of dollar sales for hardware, up over 60% on the year.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, you can't... I mean, I can't look at this current market and see anything that really has any big red flags attached to it. Right now, in 2018, things are all looking exceptionally good.
Well, I mean, this has been a very, with the exception of... Okay, all right, I'm going to reword it. Since the beginning of this generation, Sony has flourished, right? I don't think anybody would argue that at all. I mean, the PlayStation 4 has just been a runaway success the entire generation. Microsoft stumbled out of the gate, but things have improved for them slowly over time, and now Nintendo is just killing it. So, I guess my question, Matt, is this the last year that we are going to see okay, two questions actually. One, do you think by the end of the year we'll see year-over-year growth for PlayStation 4 and Xbox? And two, if that's the case, is this the last year of this generation that we're going to see that growth before things start to peter down?
Well, I mean, we shouldn't see that growth this year, but we might. Both consoles are performing very well. Now, Sony, in terms of PS4, you really got to get to 2016 or 2015 sales, which are really the high point. It came down a bit, but then rebounded last year to grow, and if it can grow again this year, then maybe it does reach the highs it reached in calendar year 3 of that cycle. So it has the opportunity to. Xbox One had a really poor year last year, but it's doing very well this year. Can that continue into next year? It shouldn't. In terms of cyclicality, we should see both of those boxes come down a bit next year, especially as we wrap up to a next-gen launch and what I'm assuming is 2020. This year has a lot of great things going for it. The Q4 slate is phenomenal, probably once in a decade in terms of its strength. When you have a Rockstar game and a Battlefield and a Call of Duty and a Smash and Pokemon, like, that doesn't happen very often. So you can buy that and you go, okay, wow, 2018 is going to be a remarkable year. But then you start thinking out 2019, boy, how do you comp 2019 to what this year is looking like it's going to be? Well, you announce new hardware for 2020 and try to get people excited that way. So,
well, I mean, I had the same reaction at the beginning of this year that I did last year. You know, Matt, like I was like, I mean, because 2017 was a fucking great year for games all around. You know, and just, I mean, if you just want to talk about the quality and quantity of games, 2017, I think we had all mentioned multiple times in this podcast, was one of the best years in recent memory. And everybody had wondered how 2018 could possibly measure up. But if you look at if you look at just the breadth of titles available, like on the Nintendo Switch, for example, like, you know, I hear people say, oh, the Nintendo's got a real problem with games. Well, I mean, I don't see it, because there's a ton of great games available on the Switch. You've got games like God of War, State of Decay 2 has sold very well for the Xbox. This fall, I mean, you've got, you know, fucking Red Dead Redemption 2, the Destiny 2 Forsaken expansion, Mario Party, which I'm very excited about, you know, two Pokemon games, Spider-Man. I mean, Jesus, and apparently there are, you know, Smash Brothers. There are other Nintendo games apparently that have not been announced yet. So I mean, the way it comes off to me right now, I mean, 2018 is giving last year a run for its money for me. Like, this has just been an incredible fucking year for me.
Yeah, and 2017 was a very, very good year if you like video games, but in terms of the commercial potential, 2018 is far bigger. I mean, these are just bigger mass market brands and developers, whereas 2017 had a lot of very, very good video games that really targeted and resonated with that very core gamer crowd, like us. But in terms of the mass market potential, when you have a Smash and a Pokemon and a Red Dead and a Spider-Man, the numbers that could be hit are pretty mind-boggling.
So I have a question for the group, not just Matt, but for the group as a whole. When the NPDs drop, so I am usually not one of those guys who says, yeah, my favorite game sold the most. But everybody knows that I have got a real personal affinity for 2D old school JRPGs, right? Because of how much games like Final Fantasy VI and Chrono Trigger meant to me growing up, what they did for me as a child, you know, how they helped me through some really difficult times. And so to see a game that I love, like Octopath Traveler, that harkened back to that era, that brought me back to kind of that comfort zone, to see a game like that, one, review as well as it did. It reviewed incredibly well. And then two, to sell as well as it did. I was not expecting this game to top the NPDs, especially, and it's doubly impressive, just like Matt said, when you factor in the idea that for Nintendo, digital sales aren't counted. We're not talking, this is strictly all physical. So I wanted to pose a question to the group. One, did this surprise anybody else? And two, what do we think this means for the future of games that kind of draw from that old school Super Nintendo 2D RPG era? And I'll just open the floor to anybody who wants to jump in on that.
I think everybody is surprised that Octopath did that well. I mean, it was clear, like, right after it launched that it was doing well, but, like, number one for, like, an old school throwback JRPG, like, on a single platform is insane. Really, really an unexpected number. And I almost wonder if release timing played into that as well. I mean, I personally don't have a Switch yet, so I wasn't able to pick up Octopath, but, like, this summer has not been, you know, big on releases on other platforms and stuff. And, like, Octopath being a game that was, you know, very focused on, you know, what kind of is a more niche approach these days at being a throwback title. I mean, it was also gorgeous, gorgeous game.
Oh god, the game is so fucking beautiful, dude.
So that gets a lot of eyes on it too. Like I think all of, and then it being good. Like I think all those things just kind of like really created like a perfect storm for it. Like it was good release timing, good marketing, and a good quality game.
Well, Maddie, what about you, man? I mean, you've dropped what 40 hours into Octopath Traveler yourself?
50 now. Yeah,
50
I just
now,
finished
okay.
all the chapter 3s. I'm gonna start on my first chapter 4 tonight.
Did the success? So you and I haven't had a chance to really talk about Octopath Traveler extensively.
No, because I'm avoiding spoilers.
Yeah,
just trying to finish it, but it's not gonna happen anytime soon, probably.
So let me ask you this, and then I've got a question for Matt. Having dropped 50 hours. I mean, dude, this is a long game. Like you guys just heard Maddie say, he's dropped 50 hours into the game, and he's still got 8 more chapters to go. One for each character. So that's 8 chapter 4s. It's a long
plus
fucking game.
whatever post game thing is there that.
There's definitely something there. So this is a long fucking game. But Maddie, after 50 hours of the game, does the success of the game surprise you at all?
I think if people knew like exactly what that game was, I feel like the way it was positioned up front isn't really how it panned out for me, at least. Like I was expecting a little more of like an open form game, and instead what I'm getting is like, go to this town, talk to a couple NPCs, use your path ability. Like it's very rigidly structured, and like I don't know if they had outlined that up front, if that would have really appealed to people. But I think another aspect of why it's doing so well is like it feels like the zenith of like all this harping on like RPG nostalgia, like what Tokyo RPG Factory has been doing with I Am Setsuna, what Acquire did with Bravely Default. Like it feels like the peak of that. And so what you mentioned earlier, like whether we will see this continue, I don't know how many times you can go back to that well, really.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So you think that this style of game in today's world has an expiration? Are you saying it has an expiration date? Are you saying you can only tap from this so many times before people get tired of it? Or
yeah, I think it has an expiration date, but I don't think it's super soon. And I think like Acquire has their foot in the door now. Like this is their thing. So like it might be maybe harder for other devs to pull off the same kind of success they did with the same genre.
So let me pass it over to Matt then, because Matt, I want to, we have to remember the fact that this caught Square Enix by surprise just as much as it did us. I mean, didn't
they issue an apology?
They did.
Because they couldn't keep it in stock in Japan or something.
Well, they couldn't keep it in stock here. It was sold out on Amazon for a month. You couldn't buy it on Amazon unless it was from a third party seller. So
Amazon's so bad about Nintendo stock, though.
They really well. I mean, dude. You couldn't find
Sony
it at
stock lately.
You couldn't find it at GameStop either, though. Just out of curiosity, a week after it released, I went to GameStop and I said, "Do you have any copies of Octopath Traveler?" And they said, "No, we don't. We're all sold out, and we don't know when we're getting more." So everybody was taken aback by the success of this game, Square Enix included. And Matt, I wanted to know, could you have predicted this sort of success for what is essentially a throwback to a Super Nintendo RPG? I mean, as beautiful as it is and as beautiful as it sounds, it is a Super Nintendo RPG with extremely pretty HD visuals. So, did this take you by surprise, or did the marketing leading up to it kind of make you hint that this was going to be something bigger than everybody had anticipated?
Well, I was expecting it to get top 10, and I thought if it did exceptionally well, it could get top 5. So when I saw the numbers come in, I went and had the folks back at Port Washington at NPD headquarters go back to the data and make sure we weren't double counting anything or that it was wrong. Like I want, so I was surprised, and that's great. But maybe we shouldn't have been because of the stockouts and everything going on. I don't think anyone at retail in a buying team had any idea that something like this could do these kind of numbers, and we certainly didn't. But it just goes to show the weirdness of the current market and how all kinds of games are doing very well and breaking some benchmarks. And of course, in today's market, like Maddie said, specialization comes into play, and you're getting a lot of games that are fairly unique in the market because dev teams have to be so specialized in the kinds of games they're making that you can't get a game out the door in a year. You have to spend 2 or 3 or more years. So we don't have the benchmark data we used to have in terms of like, we have 50 games of brown third-person cover-based shooters that we can kind of get an idea how well our third-person brown cover-based shooter will do. That's not the case anymore. So happily to be surprised by that success for Octopath.
So I guess my question is clearly, I mean, so I think not so much of a question as just a general idea from the entire group. I mean, I think we're all in agreement when we say that Square Enix is probably scrambling to make a game that's very similar in to Octopath Traveler, and I'm just talking like specifically for the aesthetic, right? Like if you're talking about that visual style,
we are getting a Final Fantasy branded game with that art
I would
style
be surprised. I would be stunned if we're not. Yep.
Within a couple years, like there's no way Square Enix lets that go by.
Well,
unless they kind of.
Unless
they kind of do what they did with Bravely Default, which was like intentionally distance it from Final Fantasy so they could have like kind of, because I feel like Final Fantasy has a stigma to some people that like, well, they released too many games, so like making it its own IP might kind of allow them to
it's not
go
like it
even
was in the
harder on it.
90s where they were like rebranding Seiken Densetsu as Final Fantasy Adventure.
Yeah. One other thing actually that I think might have helped it is I think it's just like more approachable than a lot of JRPGs, because this is totally anecdotal, but my girlfriend has played 50 hours of it, and
That's
she got it
awesome.
She got it 3 weeks after I did, and she is further ahead than I am. And like
Really?
she doesn't play JRPGs like that very often. So I think it might appeal to that crowd maybe a little more than something like Bravely Default might have.
Not to get too far down the Octopath Traveler rabbit hole, but I'll just say that I think the reason that this game appealed to a lot of people outside of the visuals of the game is the fact that, you know, it's 8 individual stories. These guys aren't out to save the world. They're not out to stop some evil, you know, god from, you know, consuming the universe, or some madman.
You can't do that story in 2018. You just can't. It's
can't. Yeah, like there's no evil clown
it's a joke.
who's
Literally a joke at this point.
But instead, you've got stories about, you know, Hanit, who is out to save her master, or Therian, who is just out to steal some things to get a bracelet off his arm, or Primrose, who's out to avenge her father. You know, like, you know, I feel like these smaller, more intimate stories are exactly kind of the breath of fresh air that this, you know, that genre needed. And I know some people are probably going to disagree with me. Some people want that big overarching threat, and you do sort of get that in Octopath Traveler at the end. And I won't say anything more about it. But it's not as played up. It's not as played up as it is in other games by far. Like So yeah, I think this game does a lot of things right. I think it really, oh god, I'm so happy that we're probably going to get more games like it. I guess that's the bottom line.
I'm really looking forward to playing it when I do get a Switch, because it just kind of like the direction JRPGs have gone since then like I used to play JRPGs all the time, like all the way up through high school and stuff, and since then the genre has not really been for me, and Octopath definitely reminds me of, you know, what I want from that genre again, and I haven't seen something like that in a while, so I'm looking forward to eventually playing it.
I feel bad that Brandon can't play it, because Brandon is like me. He's a Super Nintendo kid, and Brandon, this game is your fucking brand, man.
Yeah, I wish they would port it to something, but
it's never gonna. Yeah, although I will say that
I wouldn't be surprised if Square Enix, like, with it selling that well on just the Switch.
This is not, the next one's not going to be a Nintendo exclusive, man. I guarantee you.
Like, Square Enix is going to try to find a way to get it on everything.
Yeah, as it is, I think Square Enix, as happy as they are with Octopath Traveler sales, are probably thinking to themselves, we really should have had this motherfucker on PS4 and Xbox as well.
I'd be curious how like desperate Nintendo is to keep that though, because like I'd imagine quite a few people bought Switches for that.
I mean, I would have, if I didn't already own a Switch, I would have bought one for Octopath Traveler. That's how much I love those style of games. And, you know, I mean, I would not be surprised if Nintendo pulled out the stops to try to keep what is essentially a powerful new JRPG franchise at Nintendo. So yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. But did anybody else have a question for Matt about the MPDs?
The only other thing I had was Grand Theft Auto 5.
That was
number 2 selling game of the month.
Jesus Christ.
Number 2, baby.
Number 1 selling game on Xbox One and PS4.
Unstoppable.
Nothing can stop this fucking game, man. Like it's
and the funny thing about
nature.
The funny thing about it is, like, whenever I see it pop up, I'm just like, who doesn't have this game yet? And I realize I don't. I do not own Grand Theft Auto 5.
I hate the game, and I've bought it twice. Like, I don't know what's wrong with me. Like,
yeah, it's been on the top 20 every month but one since it launched way back in
2013.
2013.
Yeah, and number 1 on PS4 and Xbox One in July, which kind of funny. Last July, Grand Theft Auto 5 was number 1 on Xbox One. It was number 3 on PS4 that month behind Crash and Final Fantasy 12. But man, talk about a game that is just gonna. I'll be on my deathbed hopefully in 30 years, and if I still have this job, I'll be reporting about Grand Theft Auto 5 staying in the top 10.
Do you think we could get to a point in the future where GTA 5 is still outselling Red Dead Redemption 2?
Oh my god!
I don't
That would
think
be wild.
I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility, to be perfect.
It's possible.
I think it might happen.
I mean, you're talking about a game
GTA 5
that's
has longer legs than
it's almost at what,
5.
fucking 100 million sales? Like, it's getting there. It's close.
It's almost there.
Yeah, I think it all depends on how online for Red Dead pans out. But
Yeah.
I can see people wanting to stick with, cars and guns more than like bolt action, like
Like I mean,
horses.
the whole crime fantasy element of GTA Online is a big deal, and definitely
It's in its own it's in its own league. Like,
So,
there's nothing else to do
I mean, the cowboy stuff is fun and definitely appeals to a different crowd, but I don't think it has the same kind of like absolute mainstream appeal as GTA.
So think about this, guys, and this will be interesting for Matt. Considering he does, sales are his bread and butter. This is what he does for a living. There are just a little over 300 million people that live in the continental United States. Grand Theft Auto 5 has almost sold the equivalent of a third of the population of the entire United States of America.
Hell yeah.
But that fucking blows my goddamn mind. I can't even wrap my head around that.
It's not even like it gets like deep cut sales super often.
It doesn't.
Like, they keep it really high priced.
Well, didn't they announce or are coming out with like an $80 edition of a 6-year-old game that just has like a bunch of like cash or something?
Dude,
for
people
GTA
will buy it.
I think there always has been.
People will buy.
Yeah.
I know it was just announced recently that it's like, oh yeah, here's a new edition of Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yeah, there probably was like a new.
It is
but
$80.
They've always been selling. Yeah, they've always been selling like overpriced versions that
And
have all
people-
like shark cards. in it.
Matt, am I wrong? People will buy it. They'll buy it.
People will buy it. Actually, we're finding that the more expensive a game is, the more people want it.
That's insane.
And because there's this idea that everyone wants to maximize their purchase, and so they'll pay more for more content, even though only 30% of people actually ever finish a game they buy. So, yeah, pretty crazy stuff. Kind of counterintuitive in a lot of ways. But, video games, man, what are you going to do?
Fucking unbelievable, dude. Absolutely unbelievable. So, Matt, I've got one more question for you, man. You tweeted out earlier today some best-selling titles of other platforms. Older platforms, let's say. Platforms that aren't as relevant anymore. And I was wondering if you could, one, list off those games for us, because it's a super interesting list. And two, tell us how in the hell you actually get the data for some of this stuff. Because, anyway, I'll let you go ahead and take it away, man.
Yeah, so anything that scans at any retailer with a UPC code, we get that data. So, if it's scanned at GameStop or a Walmart, or if Amazon sells it, we get that data or that sale recorded in our data, and then we put it all together and crunch it all up and kick it all out. And sometimes we find that there are some interesting games that are selling in the market. Now, this could happen.
Oh, what is it now?
Oh, no, Brandon, this is great. This is great.
So like you never know like what game is hidden behind some shelf, or maybe it got stuck in the back room and it gets put out. And we're not talking big units here. We're talking onesies, twosies, threesies, right? But these things pop up. So in July this month, on the Game Boy Advance, Revenge of Shinobi was the best-selling game. Nintendo GameCube, SpongeBob, Creature from the Krusty Krab.
I think that's actually like become a popular game among like speedrunning communities. Like, and specifically the GameCube version. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's why
fantastic.
That showed up there.
It shows up a lot for Cube, actually. I've noticed it a few months now that Krusty Krab hangs out. Hey, man, cool. PlayStation 1, Chrono Cross, which isn't a huge surprise.
Oh, what a
Where do you find copies of Chrono Cross?
Like
where do you find new sealed copies of Chrono Cross?
Like in 2004, I was buying copies. I bought a copy of that game with like a beat up jewel case. Like,
yeah.
These are new copies too. These are new sealed copies.
Like these are brand new sealed copies. Okay.
Persona 3, is it Persona 3 FES or Persona 3 FES? What's the proper?
FES.
Okay, that was the #1 seller on PS2.
Or FES, yeah.
Final Fantasy IV, the complete collection on PSP.
There we go.
A Togi 2 on the Xbox.
Oh my god, the From Software game.
Yep.
And then the big one, apparently the big one, because I tweeted this out, and I'll tweet. So I'll work for hours and days on the release, do these huge write-ups, break it all out, break everything down, compartmentalize it, and like I get a good response. Like people are excited. When I tweet out that Golden Sun Dark Dawn was the best-selling game on NDS, I get 30 or 40 times the engagement on that tweet than I'll get on anything else. Like, people just love knowing this stuff. But yeah,
that is so
Golden
good.
Sun Dark Dawn, I guess it's a big deal because I guess there's a character that might show up in Smash, or people want them to show up in Smash.
That's the rumor, yeah. They want...
okay.
There's a lot of talk about Smash and Golden Sun right now.
So people have been eating that up today. But yeah, so... You know, I'll dig in and I'll try to find these weird little anomalies because it's fun, man. It's just kind of cool to see, like, who's the cat that's rolling in? It's like, yeah, give me that Otogi too. Give it to me.
Is that game playable on Xbox One right yet? Do we know?
I don't think so.
I don't know.
Because if that was a BC game, it would make sense for it to pop up there, especially with From Software being much more of a household name these days.
I just want to know. I want to know where people like Justin said. I want to know where people are getting these things sealed, like sealed copies of these games. Like that's what I want.
There's a store near me. They sell games, but they also sell like books and DVDs and stuff. They have a shelf with about 30 sealed copies of Minority Report for Game Boy Advance,
what?
And they're selling them all. They're selling them all for like $30 or $40.
Yo, you should be Maddie. Be a legend. Go buy like 15 of them. Go buy 15 of them, and then see if they show up on the NPD next month. So Matt can come on here and say Minority Report.
I did that.
It was, dude. I will pay you to do it.
I'll get a picture next time I go in.
We'll do a giveaway of
Minority Report for the Game Boy Color.
Minority Report on the Game Boy Advance. Just go into like a bag and like dump the whole shelf in.
Just be a fucking legend and do it, Maddie. Like,
I'll go drop like $400 on Minority Report for Game Boy Advance.
I promise your girlfriend won't be mad at you. It'll be okay.
Oh, she would be furious.
It'll be okay. It'll be okay. And then Matt can look at the NPD report for next month and say, "There's Maddie.
There it is.
Yeah,
there he
I'll
is.
see it.
There he is." Oh my god, that's so good. That's so fucking awesome. All right, we'll go ahead and we'll move on from the NPD stuff. Matt, thank you so much for talking about that, man. I always it's not just interesting to hear, but it is also, I mean, we haven't had really a bad or even just a ho-hum NPD month in some time. Like the industry is doing extremely well. The industry is very healthy. And that, you know, Sony's doing well, Nintendo's doing extremely well, Microsoft is doing much better, Xbox is doing much better than they were. And honestly, regardless of what platform you like to play on, regardless of what games you like, regardless of what your favorite console is, or what you prefer. It's just a good time all around for the industry. It's a good time for games. It's a good time for gamers. And I couldn't be happier that things are trending upward. And it bodes really well for interest in the industry going forward, and it bodes really well for the next generation as well, because we saw a huge drop off as the last generation was kind of winding down, which is why you saw those articles. Remember, Matt, saying, oh, our console's dead now? Like, are they dying? Is it all going?
I remember.
Are they dead? And you don't, with these new consoles, are probably, at least for the Xbox and the PS4, going to be announced next year. I think everybody kind of assumes that. You're not seeing any of these articles at all. You're just seeing nothing but good things coming out of the sales, out of the NPDs. So bodes well for interest for the next generation, which is awesome.
Like, the opinion I have seen going around about next gen consoles has been more, hey, these ones are the current ones are still selling so well. Like, why would they want to rush them out more so than will there be a market for these? Like, well, I also I think it'll be really interesting, like, just from an engineering standpoint, to see what Sony and Microsoft do, because just in terms of, like, architecturally and the tech that went into the PS4 and Xbox One was, fairly conservative compared to previous designs from either of the hardware manufacturers. So I'll be really interested to see, how they invest in the future technology as well.
I would also say that, and we'll end on this, but I would also say that the last generation went on 2 to 3 years too long.
Oh yeah, games were not running on those consoles anymore.
Yeah,
Far Cry 3 barely ran.
Far Cry 3 chugged along. Yeah, so I don't, as well as these consoles are selling, and they are selling very well. I think the one lesson Sony and Microsoft have learned, I think Nintendo is learning it too, is don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Don't let something go on longer than it should. I think if these consoles are announced next year, as I think they will be, I think it's a strong indicator that at least Sony and Microsoft have kind of learned from their mistakes and are moving forward. Go ahead.
I feel like there's going to be a shorter announcement to release period next time around. If there are going to be 2020 releases, likely holiday 2020. Maybe we'll see somebody earlier, but
so I see.
Holiday is probably where I'm guessing. Like, I wouldn't be surprised to see I wouldn't be surprised to not see any announcements until May or April or May of 2020 before they actually announce it.
I saw our resident expert nodding sagely. Matt, do you agree with that?
Yeah, so the shortening the time between announce and release is important, but I don't know if this is going to be a traditional console launch for the next gen. I'm anticipating a lot of weirdness in terms of how these things are marketed, produced, what kind of boxes are made. I think things are going to get real interesting in terms of the business plans behind them and the various ways they're going to let people engage with the content. So I don't know. I'm expecting the unexpected. I still think they'll have to say something mid next year, but maybe it's just a tease and not the full blown launch. I don't know. We'll see. It's all speculation at this point.
I feel like Sony's in a point where they'll probably have to say something, especially given their E3 lineup this year and the fact that probably at least one of those. Obviously Spider-Man will be out, but probably at least one of those other games will be coming pretty soon, like down the pipeline. Like, they can't just do a Death Stranding, Last of Us show.
Okay, so speaking of that, let's move on to I want to talk about sales predictions for the big games and sales predictions for the big games coming out this fall and winter. What's going to sell well, and I also want to talk about what we think is going to bomb, what we think is not going to sell well. And I will, I'll start it off on a depressing note. If we're talking about a sales bomb, I don't think Shadow of the Tomb Raider is going to move the needle at all.
Yeah, I don't think so either. That seems like a. I mean, it's not going to bomb, but it's not going to.
So
not going to be top of the charts.
Nope. So what is that? So I don't know the release date. I know it's September. Does anybody know the
It's
actual
27th.
date? It's the 27th.
No,
Okay, so,
it's the week. It's like the 16th or something.
okay, so it's the week after Spider-Man.
It's the week after Spider-Man. It's the 14th.
Jesus. So
it's either the 14th or the 17th. I don't know if it's a Tuesday or a Friday release.
It's the 14th.
It's 14th. Okay.
So it's the week after Spider-Man and Destiny 2: The Forsaken expansion. Okay, so I bomb is a strong word. Maybe I don't think the game. Like I'm with Brandon. I don't think the game is going to bomb.
Yes, it's not
I
bomb.
think on PS4 it will bomb.
I think it might. Yeah, I can see that
because
Spider-Man.
I think Spider-Man's going to take a lot of that crowd, but obviously on Xbox and PC, Spider-Man's a non-factor. It's also been longer since Rise of the Tomb Raider came out on those platforms because like on PS4, Rise of the Tomb Raider came a year late, so it almost doesn't feel like it's time for a sequel. If you played it when it came out on PS4, like I did.
Well, let me ask Matt a question. Matt, none of the Tomb Raider reboots have, like, they've sold fine, but none of them have like what are the sales figures on those? Like, have any of them really sold what you would call to blockbuster levels? I mean,
the initial reboot debuted at number 2 in its launch month, so that was pretty good. And then it had extended legs. Rise didn't chart when it launched in November of whatever year that was.
It launched like the day before Fallout.
No, it launched
4
on the day of Fallout 4.
Oh, okay.
The day of Fallout 4.
So it didn't chart in November of that year, but the Tomb Raider games have had pretty good legs. So they haven't been really big day one sellers, but they eventually get the units in. Now those can be at a reduced price, or they can be as part of different subscription bundles. There are a lot of ways to drive dollars from the content outside of just day one sales these days. So, I mean, I'm not anticipating big things either, but if it does along the lines of Rise, then, maybe that's good enough. I don't know.
So, let me ask you guys this. If the game doesn't perform, because I remember rumors circulating a while back that the game was going to be episodic, right? I think, did you guys remember that? When people said, Rise of the Tomb Raider, or Shadow of the Tomb Raider, is going to be an episodic game.
It was around the time of those Kotaku leaks, I think.
Yeah, there was a lot of rumors around it. I mean, and they also changed development studio for it as well, which isn't a minor change because like they made it kind of clear they were planning a trilogy, and then all of a sudden the last one going to a different studio is not a common thing.
Very weird.
I just want to point out real quick, Maddie tweeted out, I just saw this, Maddie. This is amazing. Maddie tweeted out, we just discussed the 30+ sealed copies of Minority Report for GBA at Bull Moose. He added the company the store selling it, and now I'm going to go buy them all to get the game on the MPD chart. So the show's going well so far. They tweeted back. They responded and said, if that's something you want to do, I can make you a deal.
I'm going to see what kind of a deal we're talking here.
We'll have to do like a sponsorship giveaway.
Maddie, I want you to Maddie's gonna handle this. Maddie, I want you to work your magic, and I want to pass it over to Matt. So, if Rise of the Tomb Raider, why do I keep saying fucking Rise of the Tomb Raider? It is because you know what?
Because Shadow of the Tomb Raider is a terrible name.
Because all these names
are so bad.
Rise of the Tomb Raider was even worse.
These names are all terrible.
It's also funny because every single game has used the tagline. See how Lara becomes the Tomb Raider. They've done that 3 games in a row.
When is she actually going to become the fucking Tomb Raider? But if this game doesn't sell to what to expectations, Matt, I guess. What does this mean in your opinion for Tomb Raider as a franchise going forward? Because things can only underperform so many times before they say, okay, we've either got to reassess what we're doing or we've got to pull the plug and try something new.
Well, they've stuck with it this long, so trying to understand what expectations are is very difficult. I don't have any insight at all into the budgeting process or what the expectations of a game like this are. Plenty of games that don't hit the top 10 are very profitable. And a lot of games keep getting made for years and years that, you might think, well, how's that keep getting made? Oh, there we are. So very difficult to say. They are committed to the IP, obviously, with the film that came out, as well as the development that's going on. So I don't know, impossible for me to say what even is disappointing and what isn't.
So if we wanted to throw a number out there, if you guys wanted to throw a number at Shadow of the Tomb Raider, I almost did it again, and say I think it's going to sell X amount of copies, I'm going to say we'll just go around the horn real quick. I'm going to say at the end of the day, when all is said and done, 2 to 3 million copies. I don't.
I was going to say 3 million.
Yeah. Justin, what about you?
I agree. I'm really bad with like predicting specific numbers. Even doing an ordered list. So I'm probably going to abstain from most of these. But yeah, that seems reasonable to me.
Maddie, are you in agreement?
Yeah, I mean, I think it might do below what you guessed. I'm not good with numbers either, so that's.
I know for me, Shadow's in an interesting place where it's the type of game that I would be like, oh, I'll pick this up early next year after the crazy fall is done. And then we have the early Q1 2019, which is insane. That, kind of pushes back when I will get to, that game.
Yeah.
So, and Matt, if you had to predict a sales figure, just our ballpark sales figure for Shadow of the Tomb Raider, what would it be?
Nope. I can't even hazard a guess.
Okay, that's fine.
for all kinds of reasons.
Okay. So let's move on to a game that I do think is going to sell very well, Spider-Man. I'm expecting really big things out of Spider-Man. There has been a ton of hype for this game. I think over the past 3 to 4 months, Sony has done a very good job promoting the game, marketing it. It had a fantastic showing at E3. I thought that trailer with the Sinister Six just splattered my brain across the wall. I was blown away.
Isn't last year's not the 2018 but the 2017 Spider-Man demo like the most watched E3 demo on
something
YouTube
like that,
at this point?
Yeah, it was something like that.
Between like the top 3 uploads or something like that.
Yeah. So I think and Spider-Man is what, September 7th, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, September 7th. I think that this game, I think Spider-Man is going to be a 10 million plus seller. I think this game is going to sell extremely well. I don't know what you guys think. I don't know who else here is picking up Spider-Man, but
I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. I've been really, really looking forward to this game.
Oh my god, that fucking
excitement!
It's been so long since a big production.
And the excitement from the studio about it has been very infectious. And it's I think I mentioned this before, but that's something you rarely see from a licensed game. So that's really cool. And I had very high expectations for Spider-Man, but God of War's sales legs have kind of thrown a wrench into, what I was predicting, for Spider-Man, because God of War has sold far better than I ever thought it was going to. And it's been charting since it released. Like it's
like charting every month.
People
right,
want
Matt?
the God of War, dude.
Yeah, and it's not slowed down. Like I expected a big debut and to slow down, but it's like stayed on the charts internationally too, not even just in the US. I was betting on Spider-Man being like one of, if not the top selling, PS4 exclusives, just because the greater appeal to all ages. I think kids getting a PS4 this Christmas probably gonna get Spider-Man. Whereas, they're probably not going to get God of War. I feel like Spider-Man, it also fits. I think it also fits into kind of a gap in the age targets for, Sony's exclusive games. They definitely tend to trend older in targeting. I think Spider-Man kind of hits the, more family friendly.
Well, also there really hasn't been a
wide appeal.
There hasn't been a good Spider-Man game in a really long time. Like the last Spider-Man game that I really enjoyed was Shattered Dimensions. And then an open world game. And then
also, the sheer popularity of open world games right now. Marvel is bigger than ever right now.
Yeah, I mean, the hype leading into the new Spider-Man movie next year, and then Avengers 4 next year. Like, I mean, you really could not ask for a better time to release this game.
There's a Spider-Man movie coming out in December. Into the Spider-Verse.
Into the Spider-Verse looks so good, by the way.
So there's a lot of things that if they time up marketing for it, I think could even spur more sales for it. I know they have talked about doing DLC, and there's costumes coming with the DLC. Yep. If like they tie in those costumes to Into the Spider-Verse, Avengers 4, and stuff like that, I feel like they could get, you know, some decent sales boosts when those movies come out. On top of, I'm expecting big things for Spider-Man.
Matt, what about you, man? Are you picking up Spider-Man?
Yeah, so I've already bought the deluxe edition because I don't know, because I buy everything.
Right. Yeah, there you go.
There's a shiny outfit. I need to have the shiny outfit because
with the wrapped up spoiler statue.
I whatever, man. So anyways, so Spider-Man, right? Its history is kind of unique. It was one of the premier video game franchises back in the early 2000s.
Yes, it was.
Spider-Man the movie, the original Spider-Man the movie, was the 4th best-selling game of 2002. Spider-Man the movie 2 was the 5th best-selling game of 2004. So these are like premier franchises of its era. And then it kind of fell off, right? And the Arkham games kind of took the crown of the best-selling superhero games. I think this game's going to be, it could reach or exceed Arkham City sales. I have it as the number 10 best-selling game of this year, as a PS4 exclusive in a really stacked year. So, yeah, I'm also expecting really big things.
So I want to bring up a game that I think is I'm afraid is going to get lost in the shuffle. A game that I am really excited about, and it's a shame I don't hear a lot of people talking about it, but I hear nothing but good things about it. And that is Dragon Quest XI. I'm a huge, you guys know I'm a huge JRPG guy. So Dragon Quest XI, unfortunately comes out September 4th, which
I was like, that comes out Forsaken Spider-Man week.
That is the same week with Spider-Man and Forsaken. So
I also think the Battlefield 5 beta is that week.
It is that week. So I don't see good things in the future for Dragon Quest XI, which is really unfortunate because if you go look at, so it's been out in Japan for a while. If you go look at gameplay videos, it is a gorgeous fucking game. And I know a few people who have been playing it, and I have heard nothing but wonderful. I mean, it's Dragon Quest. It's one of the most, venerable JRPG series in the world. They're all good, and
it's been out for like a year.
It's been out for a year almost in Japan. Yeah. So I'll throw this to Matt. Like, I'm pretty sure I know what the answer is going to be, but Matt, do we have any opinions on the fate of Dragon Quest XI, Matt?
I didn't realize it was launching in September until you just mentioned it. So I'm have to go. I'm looking it up right now. I'm trying to get it. Yeah. I wasn't expecting huge things out of Octopath. So what do I know?
It is. I mean, it's a very. But Octopath didn't launch against something like a Destiny 2 major expansion and Spider-Man. I mean, and this is a very traditional turn-based RPG. Like apart from looking beautiful visually. It is at its heart just a core turn-based, so-and-so casts fire JRPG.
Dragon Quest VIII sold well.
It did, but it didn't launch the same week of all these fucking games. And, I as good as the game is, and I kind of feel like it got sent out to die. Unfortunately.
Well, I think what you got to remember too is that it's coming out on PS4 and Windows on the 4th, but it's coming out on Switch and 3DS at a later date. So I feel like it's going to get, it'll get a second win from those two versions, because also that audience is just more likely to pick it up.
I would not be stunned to see it sell better on Switch than it does on PS4. I would not be surprised.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh yeah, definitely.
At all. What's next? Destiny, or not Destiny 2? Mario Party. Super Mario Party comes out in October. And that is October
3DS, right? That's not
Switch. It's a Switch game.
Oh, it is Switch. Oh, okay, I thought it was 3DS.
So October's an interesting month, right? So you've got So let's talk about October. In October, you've got a small independent game, Red Dead Redemption 2, from a very small independent developer. I don't know what the fuck they're going to do releasing that game in October. It's just a bad time to release something that small. But you got you got Mario Party, you got Red Dead Redemption 2, and then you got Battlefield 5, which launches on October 11th.
And Black Ops 4 is October this year. They moved it to October.
That's right. They did.
Forza.
Forza comes out.
Oh, Forza's October 2nd. God.
Assassin's Creed.
Assassin's Creed. Okay, so
Luigi's Mansion.
So okay,
How could you forget?
Luigi's Mansion is gonna oof. Okay. Anyway, we'll
start I'm gonna get Luigi's Mansion.
At this point, I just go ahead and assume that every first-party Nintendo Switch game sells over 1 million. Like I just assume that at this point because these games just fucking sell. The attach rate for some of these games is insane. And Mario Party is a very popular franchise. This is its first entry on Switch. I expect Mario Party is going to sell very well. The interesting factor for me in October is Battlefield 5. We've all heard the talk about pre-orders being extremely soft for Battlefield 5. Much softer than they were for Battlefield 1. And of course, a lot of the fucking idiots out on social media say, "Oh, it's because they abandoned their fans and there's a woman on the cover and this is, you reap what you sow." But when and that's bullshit. The reality, I think, is that you've got Battlefield 5 launching against something in the same month within 2 weeks of Red Dead Redemption 2 and Call of Duty with fucking Battle Royale mode, which is the first time that we've ever seen. I mean that to me is huge. So I think go ahead.
I think also because I'm pretty plugged into Battlefield community stuff, and I do think a lot of people, myself included, were, kind of hoping that it was going to be a modern Battlefield after having a historical one last time around. There was Battlefield 1942, but the rest of the series has been modern, and a lot of the fans really didn't like the move to a more historical setting in Battlefield 1. It was interesting because World War I we hadn't really seen much in games, which is why I think there was a lot of excitement for Battlefield 1 because it was kind of a different thing, but
it also wasn't launching against this smorgasbord of fucking games,
Well, but I mean, I'm just talking about stuff for a reason why Battlefield people aren't as excited for it. But I also think the marketing has been a lot weaker for 5 than it has been for 1. With 1, there was these incredible trailers every couple weeks, and they really got I think there was multiple betas and stuff for it too, and they were earlier. Whereas right now they've only been they've had some PC alphas that are missing major features that they're selling the game on. They've only been on PC. I think after the beta will be a big test for how Battlefield's going to do.
Maddie, you sounded like you wanted to get a word in. Would you like you wanted?
I agree. 1, I almost feel 1, they felt like they needed to prove the setting, and with this one, they're it's World War II. World War II, and they're kind of taking a step back, which they really shouldn't be. But after the beta, it might pick up.
And that's the other thing, kind of the way they're planning the content rollout for Battlefield 5 is interesting. They're doing something called Tides of War, which is the first time that Battlefield's going to have free content updates. They're not doing the premium pass. However, and how they're doing it is really cool if you are a player. As it's going to be over the course of the war, they're going to be adding factions and vehicles, weapons, and maps based off of the different periods of the war that it's in over the course of the game's life, which is interesting. However, it's only launching with, British and German factions. And it's not launching with anything it's not launching with D-Day. It's not launching with a lot of, Wake Island, which is a classic Battlefield map. It's not launching with a lot of the traditional World War II battles and stuff that you would expect to see in the marketing and stuff, and I think that's also probably playing into it as well.
Let me kick this over to Matt real quick. Matt, we're talking about pre-orders for Battlefield 5 being kind of soft. Do you think the Call of Duty releasing in October and the fact that Red Dead Redemption 2 releases a week and a half after Battlefield 5, and the fact that people just have not a lot of people have expendable income, and they got to pick and choose their games, especially during the fall and holiday seasons. Do you think that has a role to play in Battlefield 5's pre-orders being kind of low?
Well, so I've got a lot of problems with the Battlefield 5 order reporting as it's been done.
Interesting. Okay.
It's coming from one analyst firm. The analyst firm takes pre-order data from one retailer, the pre-order charts from one retailer, and then extrapolates out.
I did not realize that.
Yeah, EA drives a significant portion of its sales from channels other than one particular retailer. Origin Premier, for example, where Battlefield will be day one. EA does a significant chunk of its business, as many big publishers do digitally now. So there have been multiple reports, right? You had the one report, or multiple reports coming from the one analyst note. So I question a lot about that. However, there have been other reporting that says that it's off internal expectations a bit, naming an unnamed source within EA, which can be fine. However, pre-orders generally are down. People are pre-ordering less than they used to. Pre-orders are becoming less predictive of sales, and they correlate less to ultimate product sell-through. So I can't take anything away from the current reporting on this. I can't take anything meaningful away. Far too little detail, far too much noise in what's being reported. So as far as I'm concerned, Battlefield remains one of the premier franchises in gaming. I expect it to be the third best-selling game of the year behind Red Dead and Call of Duty. It might fall to 4 behind NBA 2K, but I'd be surprised. And the general audience that buys these mega hit games, the mass market audience, has no clue about the ridiculous nonsense coming out of the core gaming community, has no knowledge at all about that, and they're going to go and buy the game because they like Battlefield and they like playing with their friends. And as Call of Duty World War II showed last year, the World War II setting is really appealing to the mass market. So whatever, man. Like, this is a big fat nothing burger as far as I'm concerned until we get far more concrete details out of what's going on.
Okay, so it sounds like we're not getting the entire story then.
I'm dubious. Jeff Grubb has done some good reporting on this, has really dug into where the numbers are coming from and where this noise is coming from. I don't understand it. That analyst has been very, very pessimistic on EA before. So who knows? Like, there's a lot going on here below the surface that I'm just kind of questioning.
Well,
okay.
So
that's very cool information.
That actually is incredibly interesting. I was not aware of that. See, this is why we have Matt on to talk about us. Go ahead, Matty.
Yeah, I have a question for Matt. Do you think 9 copies of Minority Report is enough to make it chart?
Yes, that would absolutely chart. I would include that on. It would definitely come up on the bestsellers list for that platform.
I'm gonna go buy them for $1.97 each tomorrow.
Yes, do it, dude. Be a fucking
what a
legend.
Deal.
Be a fucking legend, Matt. Matty, be a fucking legend and do it.
I'm doing it.
I'm literally
replying to them right now.
I will send.
Yeah, I'm replying to them right now.
And then
are we doing like a giveaway or anything? Because that'd be pretty rad.
Yeah,
we'll turn it into something.
We're gonna do something with these copies. Yeah, this is fucking fantastic. That's awesome. That is so cool. I'm really excited about this. Okay, God, that's legendary. All right, so let's talk about Red Dead Redemption 2. Obviously, that's the big elephant in the room for October and for the fall, really. I mean, I think that's why you're seeing so many games released in February, because they just want to get the fuck away from Red Dead Redemption 2, and I don't really blame them. So, I guess the important question to ask is not will it sell well, because we all know it's going to sell well. The question for me is will this sell GTA 5 numbers? Because this is still a franchise in its infancy. This is only the second one. And I'm talking, like Red Dead. To me, Red Dead Revolver doesn't count. It's Red Dead Redemption. I think this is its own. I think we can probably separate that from Revolver. So we're only at the sequel here, and we're at game number 5 in Grand Theft Auto, and Grand Theft Auto is at 95 million copies sold at this point. So my question is do we expect this to be sales-wise the next Grand Theft Auto 5? Is is this what's going to launch Cowboys into the stratosphere sales wise for? I don't know. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I don't think so. I don't like. I don't. I just like as much as I'm personally not a fan of Grand Theft Auto. I loved Red Dead Redemption. So like obviously I'm very excited for Red Dead Redemption 2, but I think it obviously there's overlap in the appeal, but I think GTA just has more mass market appeal with kind of the wacky satirical nature of it and the whole criminal fantasy element of it versus kind of this more solemn lonely cowboy story that Red Dead Redemption is.
Brandon, what about you, man? You're gonna pick. I mean, obviously, I think you're gonna pick up Red Dead 2, right?
Yeah, I will. Yeah.
Is that a launch day? Is that a launch day release for you? Buy for you or?
Probably. Because like, what's the point of not buying it day one? Because it's not going to get on sale anytime soon.
Because you weren't.
That's a good point.
You weren't like you liked Red Dead Redemption, but you weren't.
It was my game of the generation until Last of Us came out.
Yeah, until the Last of Us. I remember that. I don't know. Like, Maddie, what about you, man? Like, where do you see this moving the needle sales wise? Because my thing about Red Dead Redemption 2 is that, and I know that this is just the way that Rockstar kind of does it. But we haven't seen a lot of it, and the game comes out in 2 months. And
we've seen as much of it as we have seen of GTA 5 at the same time.
Did we? Like,
they also have already announced that there's another like gameplay series coming.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the thing.
And I imagine they're going to do something for the online. Some press people have reported that they just went hands-on with the game, and those are going to be. Like, that's going to be out. Like, we're going to have a blitz from now on, I think, with Red Dead.
Yeah, GTA 5 only got one of those gameplay trailers. They said we're getting another one.
Interesting. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
Maddie, what
and
about
then,
you,
like he said, we will also get one for the online mode.
Yeah, they're definitely following, like, the GTA template of marketing, which was, like, don't show anything until a couple months before, and then you get, like 3 or 4 trailers in, like, quick succession, and that's all you need. And I think, like, word of mouth.
And you play the absolute shit out of the commercials on television.
Yep. Yeah, put it on like The Walking Dead or whatever was big at the time.
It was Breaking. I remember GTA 5
was
Breaking Bad. Yeah.
That was like the premiere of their.
It was like during the series finale too.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. I remember that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I'm going to kick it over to our sales expert. Matt, what are you expecting for Red Dead Redemption 2 sales-wise? Clearly, it's going to sell millions and millions of copies, but do you think that this is going to be... I'll pose it this way. Do you think this is going to sell like Call of Duty numbers?
Well, I do have it beating Call of Duty Black Ops 4 this year.
Interesting.
I think it's going to be very close. But I do have Red Dead 2 with the edge. The comps to GTA 5 are almost unfair. Grand Theft Auto 5 is on a completely different level of any other, not just game, entertainment product.
Yeah.
Nothing has done more dollars than Grand Theft Auto 5, and it's still number 2 on the chart. So any comparison to GTA 5 is just unfair. On its own, it'll be, I think, the best-selling game of the year. I think it'll have tremendous legs. What Rockstar is doing with their online service is second to none. It'll sell for years and years and years and do very well. But GTA 5 numbers are a very, very, very tall ask.
Yeah.
So let me ask this then. So on the subject of Call of Duty, right? So Call of Duty comes out right after Red Dead Redemption 2, right? I think like a week after. I think it's close. Those two.
No, I think it's before because Red Dead's the 29th.
I thought Red Dead was the 23rd.
I'm pretty sure it's the 29th.
I'm
looking it up.
Okay,
I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah. Go ahead and look it up. But I know that those two games are coming out very.
Maybe you're right. Maybe it is the 23rd.
I think it is the 23rd. And then maybe Call of Duty's the 29th. But I do know, irrespective of their release dates, I do know that they're coming out within like a week or two of each other. I think it's a week. And of course, Black Ops 4 has no, if I've got my facts right, no single player campaign.
Correct.
Right? There's no actual single player campaign. It's a battle royale game.
Well, there's a battle royale mode. Like it's not exclusively a battle royale.
But well, okay. So it's a multiplayer game exclusively. There's
Yes.
no actual single player campaign to speak of.
Correct. They
aside from the zombies thing,
there's
going to be a zombies thing, but there's going to be no actual story mode.
The traditional campaign is not there this
year. So my question is I can't remember the last time we had I don't think we've ever had a Call of Duty game without a traditional campaign mode.
Nope.
And I know that people traditionally don't buy Call of Duty just to play the campaign, but back in the day when I played Call of Duty, that was the first thing
I was that weirdo,
yeah. Like that was
me too. I'm that guy.
You know, and when you consider a market that has games like Fortnite, which is just ruling the roost in the battle royale genre, and you got PUBG, which is still doing very respectably or very respectfully. I'm curious. And we'll start with Matt this time. Do you think that Battlefield 4, Jesus, do you think that Call of Duty Black Ops 4 is going to fall short sales-wise of what we normally expect out of a Call of Duty game? Like, I know you've got it placed high among your top 3 sellers for the year, but do you think this is the year that Call of Duty underperforms when weighed against the measure of past Call of Duty games?
Well, I mean, that's the big question, right? Or that's the big thing is what is a normal Call of Duty game anymore? Because the swings between a Ghost, an Infinite Warfare, a World War II, like those are big swings. They're always huge games, and they've always led in terms of annual sales on a year-to-year basis. But the differences between them have been pretty big. So how big is big for Black Ops 4? I'm not anticipating World War II numbers, but I'm anticipating numbers far above Infinite Warfare. So, yeah, my question is around the no single-player campaign. People made a big deal about that around Titanfall 2 and being one of the reasons Titanfall 2 struggled. I don't know if I believe it, but at the same time...
Titanfall 2 had a campaign.
Yeah.
Titanfall 1 did.
Titanfall 1, sorry, yeah. Titanfall 1. That was some of the talk about Titanfall 1 not doing well is because it didn't have a single-player campaign. So, yeah, I'm waiting to see. I'm optimistic that it'll do very well, but is it going to hit World War II numbers? I don't know. That's a big ask as well. Maybe.
So, Maddie, I'll kick it over to you. Does the lack of a single-player campaign, and I don't know your relationship to Call of Duty, so you may not even care about the game. But does the lack of a single-player campaign or its kind of big focus on Battle Royale, does that push you away from Black Ops 4 or what?
I'm kind of indifferent. Like, last year I bought World War II just on a whim, and I used to, since Modern Warfare 2, I bought it played the campaign in one day, and then I just went in on the multiplayer, and the multiplayer kind of faded in last years. But I grabbed World War II, didn't even finish the campaign, and I'm just now kind of getting back into multiplayer. Just kind of as like, I want to play something. I don't know what I want to play. I'll sit down and play like 2 matches. So the lack of a single player really isn't an issue for me, and the focus on Battle Royale actually kind of makes me interested. Like, if that mode pans out well, I think that could be an interesting alternative to Fortnite. But I don't know. I played that beta, and it just did not feel great. It feels like they're trying to shoehorn in kind of Overwatchy, Rainbow Six Siege type mechanics that
somebody
don't work.
Somebody told me that it was similar to Black Ops 3 in the sense that it just felt like somebody had poured Destiny into Call of Duty gameplay. There's ground pounds. You've got grenades with powers and stuff like that.
It really does feel like they're trying to get Overwatch. Overwatch's kind of lunch, which makes no sense to me because Activision Blizzard.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, that was it. Yeah, I was good.
There can be a lot of internal competition across teams sometimes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I know personally, like the lack of a campaign this year for Black Ops 4 is strange for me because I am one of the people that has really ripped into the Blops 3 campaign.
Yeah, me too.
I think I thought it was truly awful. Like, I think it's the worst thing I've played this generation.
It is horrendous.
Yeah, it's not good.
And So on that sense, the lack of a campaign in Black Ops 4 doesn't really bother me.
Yeah.
However,
if
like
they can't do it, just don't do it.
However, like I don't like zombies. So it seems to be a lot of where they were putting like the money that would go into the single player campaign has gone into zombies. So that's a pretty significant chunk of the game that I don't care about. And like I said when I gave my impressions from the beta, and kind of building on what Maddie said, you know, kind of like the added like team composition and specialist ability stuff, like from Overwatch and Siege, kind of took the like fun, casual, like laser tag nature of Call of Duty out of it, which makes the multiplayer less appealing to me than usual. And I think that'll be the big test for that game, because Black Ops is usually the biggest like multiplayer for Call of Duty these days, and I think that'll be the big test with how long it lasts, like among the community, how they take to those changes. However, I am very interested in trying out Blackout, the Battle Royale mode.
Yeah.
Because I'm on PS4, so I can't play PUBG. Fortnite is cool, but the building part's not my thing. Like, I think something like a Call of Duty Battle Royale game could be very, very cool. And I'm definitely going to check out that beta and check that out. And I have I wouldn't be surprised if the community doesn't take to the changes to the core competitive modes, but they really take to the Blackout mode.
Yeah, the Blackout mode.
That's kind of the appealing thing about Blackout, is that it's like this amalgamation of the history of Black Ops, which is great, because Black Ops 3 and 4's setting is so boring to me. So like, put in the 1 and 2 stuff and I'm all over it. Because Brandon and I actually bonded over our hatred of Black Ops 3 and how just god awful that campaign is.
So bad. It was really bad. What was it like?
I was legitimately upset playing.
Yeah.
Like Brandon just.
I got to the end of it. I was like, I can't.
Brandon just could not stop imagining that he was in a frozen forest.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I still.
He couldn't stop thinking about that frozen forest.
My favorite defense of that is like, well, if you pause the screen and read the words that aren't blacked out, and then you piece them together in the right order, it
fucking Call of Duty game.
That made me angry, because people were trying to say that game had a great story, and it's like, no, they literally just refused to do storytelling.
I checked out.
If you have to do that,
I checked out. I think that when that character, I think his name is Hendrix, he was eating the candy bar and he pulled a Ron Burgundy. You know, he's like, this candy bar is delicious, but it is filling. And he just like
saw like
the
second mission.
Yeah, and I was just like, this game sucks.
It's
like,
very early.
And plus, like the game ran at 60 frames a second, and then the cutscenes were all 30. Like it just.
I think they eventually fixed that, but
they patched it for some things. They patched it for like, because usually it would do that for door openings and like climbing into vehicles and stuff. They fixed that, but like the full on cutscenes were still 30.
Yeah,
I don't want to get too far down the Black Ops 3 rabbit hole, but I do have a zesty prediction for you guys for November. I've got a spicy take here, and I'm sure
it's a spicy meatball.
I'm sure Matt will appreciate this. He probably won't agree with it, but here's a zesty sales take coming up. I think that Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu are going to be the highest selling Pokemon games in the past 7-8 years. Simply due to the fact that these are the first yeah, see, there you go. Simply because, now hear me out, because these are the first Pokemon games available on what is essentially a home console. Like, I know you can take your Switch anywhere you go, but it's a home console. These are the first ones. We've never had a Pokemon game available. Pokemon Tournament doesn't count. We've never had a Pokemon game available on a home console. And given the fact that the Switch is just selling at a meteoric pace, the attach rate for the Switch is incredible. I mean, last year, there were more people that owned Breath of the Wild that owned a fucking Switch. Switch game, there were. It was insane.
Yeah, I remember.
Switch games are selling incredibly well. Even games that you wouldn't expect, like Octopath Traveler. So I think, when you combine it with that cool Pokeball controller, I think Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, and I'm talking, because they're the same game, essentially, just, two different versions. So I think this is going to be one of the highest selling Pokemon games, if not the highest selling Pokemon game of the past 7-8 years. So Matt, how zesty, how spicy is my take? And do you agree with me, or do you think I'm completely off fucking base here?
So, okay, from a dollar sales perspective, it's spicy, but I like it. It's like a Cholula take, you know? It's like just a little bit of hit of spice. You're just like, all right.
I wanted to put some heat on this thing for you.
Yeah. If you're talking units, that's ghost pepper, baby. That'd be real tough. Pokemon Sun and Moon set the record. That's the biggest launch of a Pokemon game ever. Those are big numbers that Pokemon Sun and Moon did, beating Pokemon Sun and Moon.
But are you combining? But Matt, are you combining Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon with the previous versions of those two games? Are we looking at all?
I'm just talking about the launch, like the launch month.
I gotcha. Okay, I gotcha.
We're the biggest, so I'll let you know because if Pokemon Eevee and Pikachu can have the biggest Pokemon launch ever, you know I'll be talking. But yeah, from a dollar perspective, yeah, it can happen.
I think, John, I have a bit of a counterpoint to that prediction. I think, particularly, kind of the more casual targeted demographic of the Let's Go game is going to be impacted by the fact that the Switch is $300 as opposed to being like $150 3DS. I think a lot of the crowd that I mean, obviously, Pokemon's going to do really well. Like, I'm not trying to be like, oh, nobody's going to buy Pokemon or anything. But I do think a lot of the target market, specifically for Let's Go, might not want to drop $300 on a Switch at this point.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, I mean, I think. Oh,
trust me, I still think it's going to be one of the
but what I'm saying
games
is,
of the year. Like,
I
think in terms of reaching the heights that you're talking about, I don't think the Switch is quite at the low cost of entry of Nintendo's previous handheld.
But that is all dependent upon whether or not we see a price cut for Black Friday. The Switch didn't get one last year. It may not get one this year, but if it does, I think you're going to see a lot of parents run out to grab that Switch, grab that Pokemon, grab that Pokeball controller, with a Mew inside of it. I think. I mean,
if there's a cheap Switch this holiday season, I'm camping out. Like, I mean, I don't know. I do not have one yet, and I want one.
Maddie, what do you think?
I don't know. I think there's like the conflict of it's people going, oh, it's casualized, but that's also the loud, hardcore audience. Yes. But I don't know. I can't really make the call if it'll like move units or anything. But I think most people who have a Switch will probably grab it.
Brandon, you got any takes on Pokemon?
I think it'll. No, I really don't. Honestly,
yeah,
I don't care. I can't even pretend.
Right now, Brandon's just thinking about Taco Bell.
I am thinking about some Taco Bell. Yeah.
So we got.
I want a nacho cheese chalupa.
We got just a few minutes left. We'll do Smash Brothers real quick, and we'll call it a night.
There's actually two other games that you missed. I think one's going to be pretty big, and it's not my bias.
What games?
Fallout 76.
Oh,
I think
shit! I forgot about Fallout. Damn.
I think that game is actually going to creep up on people and do way better than people think it's going to be.
I do too.
I feel like that game, like, talk about that game's kind of muted right now. I feel like once the beta hits, that game is going to really take off.
Once people know what that game is and people can sit down and watch a YouTube video of, like, someone playing 15, 20 minutes straight, I think it's going to become, like, far more interesting to people. The other one is Darksiders 3, which I hope gets delayed. Because
I totally fucking forgot about that. It's going to get lost in the sauce.
I love that series, and after 2 flopped, I was like, oh great, it's dead. And now they're bringing it back, and they're like, where should we put it? Let's put it in late November.
They need to delay it to like next June or something.
Yeah.
Because
honest to God, we're lucky we're even getting a fucking Darksiders 3.
Clearly they're leading up to 4 with the Final Horseman, and they're just like, let's kill this series before we even get there.
Yeah, I agree. Like I don't know, Matt. What do you think, man? See. It speaks volumes to the fact, guys, that I forgot.
Pretty sure his question was going to be.
There we go. I'm back.
It speaks to how bad of a release date that is that most of us forgot that game was coming out.
I'm back. Fucking Discord, like my internet didn't even die. Like Discord just took a huge
I forgot
shit.
about.
Discord.
That's what happens to me almost every week once, and then I'm fine.
But yeah, I don't think that I think Darksiders 3 is probably dead in the water. I don't see that.
I don't know
at all.
That series just keeps coming back from the death. I mean,
it's fucking weird.
After the THQ liquidation, to bring it's come back so many times from the dead. Like, I don't think it can be killed.
And then a final one with all of them. And I need that game. And they're doing all they can do to kill this series before we get that game.
Man, at
least they're bringing out like 6 different versions of each of the games that come before. So maybe if they just keep doing that.
Yeah, we just need more. Yeah, we need more pun editions.
Hey guys, we're gonna go and wrap it up because Discord keeps dying on me, and I'm afraid that the whole thing. I'm afraid we're at 10:30 anyway. I'm afraid the whole thing's gonna fucking crash. We can just all agree that Smash Brothers is gonna sell very well. It's gonna sell great. It's gonna be huge.
It's gonna be massive.
I want to thank Matt, our good friend Matt Piscatella with NPD, for joining us once again, as he does every month, to talk about the NPDs. But also, Matt, more than that, we value your friendship more than we do your analysis, man. And your analysis is great.
It's worth more.
And your analysis is great, but your friendship is even better.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Always fun to hang out.
So we appreciate that, and I want to remind everybody. I tweeted it out earlier today, and I'm going to be tweeting it out more as it approaches. But I was invited by Greg Miller to join him and 19 other people on stage at PAX West to do a video game tournament. It's not PAX Mania. It's a video game tournament that he is holding with 20 people. I'll be up there with people like Jared Petty and. Dan Reichert will be there. Jonathan Dornbush from IGN. Andrea Renee from What's Good Games. Andre Seegers from Game Explain. I've been a fan of Game Explain for a long time. There'll be a lot of cool people up there on stage. It's gonna be really awesome. Jeff Grubb will be there. Jeff was actually listening to Side Questing last night when I was on, and he knows that I'm coming for him. Jeff Grubb knows that I'm coming for him. So if you're Team John, go out and hashtag that shit on Twitter. Let Jeff Grubb know that justice is coming. Justice is coming his way. I'm going to be like Wyatt Earp. I'm going to be like, you tell him I'm coming and hell's coming with me. Like shit's going to happen, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And it'll be live streamed. So if anybody wants to watch me win, you can go and do that on, it'll be at the Hydra Theater at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So that'll be 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I am very excited to be a part of that and very honored to be included in that. I'm still kind of in a state of disbelief over it. So anyway, we'll go ahead and we'll wrap it up here. I don't know if there's going to be a podcast next week because on Thursday I'll be flying out to PAX West. We might try to see if we can make something happen on Wednesday, but my flight is at 6 a.m. and it's an hour away on Thursday, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to make that happen. But we will be recording the first in our new series of podcasts this Saturday, talking about Gamescom this past week. So please be excited about that, as Square Enix would say. And aside from that, if nobody has anything else, as always, it's not always poetry, and we don't always agree, but we always keep it real. So until next week, hopefully, we will see you guys later. Everybody, please take care of each other.